I didn't go into episode 2 thinking I was gonna see Uncle Clifford's eggplant. But that's where we are. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the tribe, and if you are returning to Fiercely V, welcome back. So happy to have you. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this second episode review and recap for P-Valley season 2. If you haven't already checked out my season 2 episode 1 review of P-Valley, make sure you check that out. Child, it took me so long to edit that, but we're gonna get better. We have a lot to talk about in episode 2 because it's a lot happening. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Of course, while you're here, make sure that you go ahead and give the video a like if you're vibing with it, and also if you're just vibing with the environment over here at Fiercely V, make sure that you subscribe to the tribe so that you don't miss any additional content that's posted. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this P-Valley season 2 episode 2 review and recap. The title of episode 2 is 7 Pounds of Pressure. So we're starting episode 2 off with an audition montage. It's giving very much Bring It On. We basically see all these girls that are lined up at the Pank, and they're there so that they can audition to be dancers. And we see Big L, child, I could not remember his name in the last review and recap, but we see Big L. He's walking up and down through the crowd, just kind of scoping the girls out. And there are a few of them that that stand out to him throughout the line, and they're pretty much the girls that are going to be selected eventually to actually dance at the Pink. And so pretty much the 3 girls that are kind of the new girls that are selected, one of them's name is Roulette. Very just like feisty type of personality, kind of stank. A little stank. Personality's a little stank. But, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, Mercedes' personality is stank too. So, you know, she kind of needs somebody to go head to head to her, right? So low-key, it needs to be somebody that's going to be willing to go head-to-head with her. So yeah, Roulette, her attitude's a little stank, but I mean, she's a good dancer. She looks good. You know, it is what it is. And so then the other girl that we have that's kind of selected from the group of girls that are auditioning, her name is Whisper. She seems very just kind of like low-key, doesn't seem like she's going to be causing any type of problems, but they do allude to like her being like someone that's into like spirituality and stuff later on in the episode, which we'll talk about. So we'll see how that ties into everything. And then the other girl that gets kind of picked out of this new group of girls that's auditioning is she goes by the name Big Bone. It's Miracle Watts' character. I was mentioning in the last review and recap how I knew she was going to be part of this season, but I didn't exactly know in what capacity. So she's actually one of the new girls. She was not good at actually working the pole, which when they were doing the auditions and stuff, they showed her like trying to climb the pole, and she was like not even able to climb it. But she's really pretty. Her body is banging. So they, you know, basically Haley makes a decision that they want her there just because she's so pretty. Her body is so good. Like dudes want to see that. So they'll just find somewhere else to put her like behind the bar. So basically we have this audition montage. We see Uncle Clifford, Haley, and Mercedes. They're basically, all these people are auditioning and they're choosing who they want to move forward with. We have Haley, who seems like she's kind of just basing it off of looks, like who looks good, whose body looks good, because at the end of the day, like, that's what dudes want to see. Whereas Mercedes is really looking at their skill level. She want to see how well they can actually work the pole. So when it comes down to it, Mercedes is wanting the girl Roulette and the girl Whisper that I mentioned before. And then she kind of gets upset when Hallie chooses to move forward with Big Bone, played by Miracle Watts, because she couldn't work the pole. But Haley is like, she looks good and look at her body. So those are the 3 girls that they decide to move forward with. They have a little back and forth about training the girls. Mercedes doesn't want to. She's like, I ain't no trainer, or, you know, I ain't no coach or whatever. And Haley is like, actually, you are a coach, which is funny because Mercedes is literally a dance team coach. So she's gonna be like basically coaching the girls and preparing them for the grand reopening of the Pink, which everybody is super excited about now that COVID restrictions and stuff are lifted. So as they're wrapping up these auditions and they've selected the girls they're gonna move forward with and decided that Mercedes is gonna start training them, in walks Corbin Kyle, who I've been calling the biracial Kyle, and I'm probably going to keep calling him that. He walks in with Andre, and of course, they want to talk about this whole situation with Promised Land Realty Group trying to buy the Pink because of the casino that's coming into town. So they show up. They want to have a conversation. So over at Derek and Keyshawn's house, Derek is outside on the porch and he's talking to the sheriff because he's still mad about what happened at murder night, even though he instigated the fight with him and Diamond. Let's be very clear. And he's upset about what happened at murder night. He wants to press charges against Diamond, but basically the sheriff is just like, you know, I can't really press charges because, you know, nobody actually witnessed who it was that started the fight. So if we press charges just based on assault, then we would have to charge both of y'all. And so he's just trying to explain that to him. Keyshawn is actually in the kitchen before she goes out to the porch to join them, and she's getting them something to drink. And while she's in there, she notices that Derek gets a message on his phone, and it's the people from the job that he was trying to get the management position at. It's the people from that job letting him know that he did not get the position. So she sees this, but she's not really going to say anything about it until later. So she gets him something to drink. She goes out to the patio. Like I said, the sheriff is telling Derek, like, look, I can't move forward pressing charges. Derek is like insisting that charges be pressed and stuff. And while they're talking, the sheriff mentions, you know, yeah, I'm surprised they even gave him a new job at the dollar store with, you know, his military record. Now we know that last episode, Keyshawn had finagled her way into being able to go to the dollar store so she could see him, and now the sheriff has basically just let Derek know that Keyshawn works at the dollar store. So we're gonna see that come up later. So back at the Pink, Mercedes is training the 2 new girls, Whisper and Roulette. She's showing them some pole tricks and stuff. During her just kind of showing them some different things, her shoulder is still hurting her. Remember from the last episode, she's had this injury in her shoulder ever since the whole murder night situation happened. And so, you know, her shoulder is bothering her while she's trying to show them. And there's, you know, a little bit of joking back and forth between the 2 new girls, kind of low-key insinuating that maybe she's like too old or she's getting older or something. And of course, Mercedes does not take this well. She obviously does not want to be reminded that she's, you know, older than them or whatever. But mind you, let me just say, Mercedes' body is phenomenal. And listen, okay, let me get out of character and out of episode for a second. The girl that plays Mercedes, I literally like searched her up on Instagram because I'm like, this girl, she's just bad as fuck. I'm sorry. Like, she just is. And like, she is so just like fit and just, listen, I just had to get that out. Cause why she looks so good? Why is her body so bomb? Like, and so it's just funny watching in the episode them just kind of like cracking the joke that like she's older than them and maybe she's too old to be doing this. But I'm like, but do you see her though? So anyway, you know, they're making this little joke and it makes Mercedes feel a type of way. She didn't even want to train them anyway, first of all, but it makes her feel, you know, a type of way. And, you know, she didn't want to still be dancing, and if her mom hadn't stole her money and stole her, dance studio, she wouldn't still be dancing. So, it's just, you could just kind of tell that it's kind of getting to her that she's even still dancing at this phase in her life where, maybe even she feels like she's too old to still be doing this. So, the jokes that they're cracking are kind of like getting to her a little bit. Plus, like, her shoulder is really just still really bothering her. And so Mercedes ends up going to chit chat with Big L a little bit, and they're standing around just kind of talking about this meeting that Haley and Uncle Clifford are in the office having with Andre and biracial Kyle brother. So we go into the meeting and we basically see that Corbin Kyle is trying to offer them $500,000 to buy the pink, to which Haley and Uncle Clifford are like, no. Like, y'all don't try to lowball us. We know how bad y'all want this land. Do not try to lowball us. Talk about some $500,000. And so they're basically going back and forth. And Haley is like, listen, you're talking about property values, $500,000, whatever, but we know that, this club is actually worth so much more based off of how much y'all want it and how much y'all need it. So unless y'all talking about like 10 M's, it's not happening. And Corbin Kyle is like, he was like, you out of your mind if you think I'm gonna give you 10 M's for this. But I mean, at the end of the day, do y'all want it or do y'all not want it? Because it's clear the way y'all keep coming back that y'all really want this. So if y'all really want it, then pay for it. So I ain't mad at Uncle Clifford and Haley putting their foot down on it, because at the end of the day, this kind of stuff happens all the time with gentrification. Like, let's talk about it. When it comes to these big ass development companies coming into lower income neighborhoods with people who they know are a lot of times desperate for money, a lot of times not very well off, and are going to be, you offer somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have a lot of opportunity, you offer them a few $1,000s, and that could change their whole life, when in reality, they could have offered them so much more based on just how much that that land or that property or whatever is truly valued as far as how much they need it. So listen, this stuff happens all the time. This is how gentrification happens. People come in, they buy up the hood for cheap, and then they put up these businesses and buildings and stuff that end up making them millions and billions and trillions. So I'm not mad at them saying, look, if you want the pink for real, then 10 M's. Period. So Uncle Clifford ends up reading the fuck out of the biracial Kyle brother, and basically, because the biracial Kyle brother kind of like makes a little remark about Haley, and is like, just a few months ago you was on your knees butt naked in this room dancing for some change or whatever, because she was a stripper previously. And I'm just like, first of all, sir, just a few months ago you was in here too in the Paradise Room having people spank you for fun. So let's not talk about what was happening a few months ago. But anyway, Uncle Clifford reads the fuck out of him, rightfully so. And they basically end up going back and forth about the whole referendum, where they had got that petition in the last season to stop the casino from even coming. And he's like, first of all, you need to be worried about if your brother, is even going to be able to get the casino referendum to pass. Don't nobody want that in here, And so, they end up going back and forth about that. So while they're in there talking, Big L comes in and lets Uncle Clifford know that his flyers have come in, and basically it's flyers for the grand reopening of the Pank. And so Uncle Clifford, he's excited. He goes out to look at his flyers, and he notices that the flyers say that the reopening is this coming Friday instead of next Friday, which is what it was supposed to be. And he's like, when did we change it? When did we move it up a week? And basically Haley is like, oh yeah, I did that. I feel like we can go ahead and do that so we can start getting some money in here. First of all, Haley, listen, I don't dislike Haley, and I do understand the fact that, yes, you bought the pink with your money and you are a majority owner. Okay, got it. But why even give Uncle Clifford part ownership if you just gonna be doing stuff and making decisions and not including him. You know, like, I don't like that. I don't like this dynamic. I don't like it. I understand her wanting, like, majority ownership of the company because it was her money. And, like, I think it's great that she even allowed Uncle Clifford to be part of it, you know, to still own part of it. But at the same time, girl, this is his club that he's been running long before he was here. And you made him part owner, but then you making decisions like that without him. Like, at the bare minimum, you would think you would have mentioned to him, like, oh, by the way, I'm thinking about moving the reopening up a week. But it's like, girl, you just did it without saying anything. And turns out that part of the reason Uncle Clifford is so mad, not only does he believe that, you know, they're just not ready, the girls are not trained yet, they just found the new girls today, you know, and so he's like, not only are we not ready, we don't have a DJ, nothing, but also it's his birthday on Friday. And so Haley makes a comment like, oh, I mean, if you just don't want it to be on your birthday. And he's like, no, it's not even that. It's not that I'm just like, I don't even care about my birthday, but I just don't think we're ready. And so ultimately they end up going back and forth. They arguing, they yelling. At one point, Mercedes comes in and she's like, why would you schedule this on Uncle Clifford's birthday? And da-da-da. And so it's very clear that, like, every single person around knows that it's Uncle Clifford's birthday on Friday. And it's just like, Haley, girl, if you would have, you must have done this, like, completely on your own. Because if you would have said anything to anybody about moving the date up, somebody would have told you, oh, wait, no, that's Uncle Clifford's birthday. But you just making decisions and doing stuff without telling anybody involved. I'm just like, that's not, it's giving ineffective leadership. And I don't like it. I don't like it. It's giving dictatorship. And I don't like it. Like, again, I don't dislike Haley, but if this is how she gonna move as co-owner, listen, I'm not here for it. So basically, her and Uncle Clifford end up having this huge back and forth, and they going back and forth. And when I tell you Uncle Clifford was reading her life away, it was hilarious. At one point, Uncle Clifford, he was like in her face, and he was like, and his nails was, I was screaming. It was hilarious. But let me just say, I hate this accent that Haley is doing. I hate it. I hate it so much because it sounds so unnatural and stupid. Like, everybody's accents, a lot of people in the show, like, their accents and colloquialisms sound extra. And listen, I'm somebody that I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Mississippi is next door. Okay. So I hear what they trying to do. But some of them, it just sounds crazy. Like, and I think the girl that plays Mercedes is actually she's from the tri-state area. She's either from Memphis, Mississippi, or Arkansas. She's from somewhere within this little, you know, tri-state region. So I think she naturally has a little bit of the accent, but sometimes it kind of feels forced with her too. But with Haley, it feels so forced. And in this scene where she's arguing with Uncle Clifford, she just sounded a mess. I'm just gonna say it. She sounded a mess. It sounded a mess. It's just, girl, just be pretty. Just be pretty. Just the back and forth, the arguing, and this accent, it's not giving. It's not giving. I want them to stop. I want them to stop having her do that. But anyway, I was dying laughing at this whole back and forth because Uncle Clifford was really reading her down. Eventually, he's just like, well, look, you can have your little, you know, grand reopening, whatever, but I won't be here. And so he's not going to come. He's just going to let them sink or swim, you know, on their own. So Grandmother Ernestine is watching TV, and we see this foolish commercial with Pastor Woodbine talk about where the blessings reside, and I was dead. But basically, she's watching this commercial, and Uncle Clifford comes in. He's upset. He's telling her about this argument he just had with Haley. Grandmother Ernestine is like, look, well, you know, good that you're not going to have to go in and you know, it's your birthday, you're not gonna be working, we need to do something fabulous, we need to do something spectacular. And Uncle Clifford is just not feeling it. He's like, listen, you know, I'm about to be 40. You could tell he feels a way about turning 40. He's just like, I'm about to be 40. I still, you know, live with my grandmother. Like, you know, I ain't had no sex in 5 months, you know, and he just ain't feeling it. He gets emotional. He goes in his room. He has a little breakdown or whatever. And, you know, we get it. You know, getting older, it's just, if society wasn't the way it was, we wouldn't feel so much pressure as we get older to feel like we need to do this, we need to have done this, we need to be married, we need to have children, we wouldn't feel all this pressure. But society makes us feel so much pressure to the point where just getting older, it just feels like you're never doing enough. I wish society wasn't like this. I wish society would just let us get older and live our lives, but child, that is just not the world we live in. So Uncle Clifford is in his room. He's having himself a little breakdown, and there is a knock at the door. And so Grandma Ernestine opens the door, and it is Lil Murda. And we get this super just, oh, it tugged at my heartstrings. Let me just say this. I love the way they're handling this relationship between Lil Murda and Uncle Clifford, because it just feels very genuine and real. And I think that in this type of show where you have this, you know, this down low rapper who's very hood, and you know, and you have him involved in this relationship that, you know, the world wouldn't assume that he would be in this type of relationship with someone like Uncle Clifford. And they could have handled it in a way that was very like stereotypical, or they could have made it feel like a fetish thing or something. But it's very clear that Lil Murda really cares very deeply for Uncle Clifford. And I just love that. I love it. I love their dynamic. I'm rooting for him. I want him to make it. But anyway, he comes and he's talking to Grandmother Ernestine and stuff. And while he's outside, he's kind of standing outside the front door, and Uncle Clifford hears him. So he comes and he hides behind the door. But Uncle Clifford doesn't realize that he's hiding by the door, but his reflection is in the mirror. So Lil Murda can see his reflection in the mirror. So Lil Murda knows that he's hiding behind the door. And so Lil Murda is just like, you know, he's telling Grandmother Ernestine, like, yeah, you know, tell Uncle Clifford that, you know, I really just wanted to see him. I wanted to apologize and let him know that I could have handled things differently before, and I'm sorry, and I just wanted to apologize before I go on tour and stuff. And so he's telling Grandmother Ernestine to tell Uncle Clifford this, but really, because he knows that Uncle Clifford is right there behind the door, he's really saying it to him. And it's just a very sweet moment in the show. Like, I don't know how they're going to come back together, but I want them to come back together. And I don't want Lil Murda to be on the down low anymore, but I understand why he is on the down low, because the world we live in is just not going to accept him in the occupation he's in. And so I get it. Like, I get it. I understand why he is choosing not to let the world know about, you know, who he is and who he wants to be with. But I just want them to live happily ever after. And I want them to be out and about and just happy. And like, I want that for them. I really like Lil Murda. Okay. I'm done. But I want them to make it. I'm rooting for them. So Andre is still at his uncle's house. He's on the phone with his wife, just letting her know that, you know, he's gonna have to be there for longer. He's been named the executor over his uncle's estate, and so he's gonna need to be there at bare minimum until they do the reading of the will, and he doesn't know when that's going to be yet. So he's walking up to the house, and he notices that there's a whole bunch of like water hoses running from his uncle's house like throughout the neighborhood. And so he goes to investigate it and check it out, and basically some of the neighbors in the neighborhood are basically letting him know, like, Mayor Ruffin, he would pay the water bill for the whole street sometimes if they got behind or whatever. And they're like, you know, some of us have been behind for years, you know. And so once Andre hears this, he ends up going into his uncle's house, and he's just kind of looking through some stuff. His uncle keeps some financial records and stuff, and so he's looking through the financial records and stuff, and he's recognizing that, like, it's this whole paying for the water stuff, you know, it's showing like $10,000 a month for water bills and stuff, and it's giving very much money laundering, it's giving scammer, it's giving cooking the books. And so he just makes a little comment about, you know, his uncle being a you know, like Robin Hood, you know, steal from the rich, give to the poor.
This fucking Robin Hood nigga.
It's giving standard issue politician to me. Isn't that what they all do? So once he finishes just kind of looking through his uncle's financial records and stuff, he ends up looking at an old family videotape, and it is a videotape of him as a child, and he's talking to his dad and his uncle Tidell, Mayor Ruffin, and basically Mayor Ruffin is like, tell him what you said you wanted to be when you grow up, and he's like, he wants to be the president. And you can hear his dad in the background laughing at him, telling him, you ain't gonna be able to be the president, they're not gonna let a black boy be the president, or something like that. And Tidell immediately, you know, goes off and shuts that down, and he's like, you could be whatever you want to be, don't ever let nobody tell you that you can't be what you want to be. And Andre is just kind of watching this, and he's getting a little bit choked up. And now in my episode 1 review and recap, one of my predictions was that somebody is going to end up running against the Kyle brother, who is the interim mayor. And I was like, I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's going to run against him. For some reason, I feel like them having this little video clip in here of Andre, you know, saying, I want to be the president, you know, having these political aspirations as a child. For some reason, I'm like, are they trying to set this up that he's going to run against the Kyle brother? Because that was one of my predictions, but I didn't know if he was going to even be able to, if he doesn't live in Chucalissa. But technically right now he does live in Chucalissa because he's living in his uncle's house, and he's the executor for the estate. So I guess technically he owns the estate. I don't know, y'all. It was just odd that this little video was like him saying he want to be in politics as a child, and we have a, you know, mayoral race coming up that there's nobody running against the person. So I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. I feel like it's low-key giving Andre might be running for mayor of Chucalissa. I don't know. We'll see. So at Derek and Keyshawn's house, Derek has looked in the little diaper genie thing, and he realized why they had ran out of diapers, and he realizes that Keyshawn had put them all in the thing so that she could have a reason to go to the store. And of course the sheriff let him know earlier that Diamond was working at the dollar store, so he's putting 2 and 2 together. So he's pissed, he's going off, and he's like, why are you lying? You went up there trying to see him. And he's going off. Keyshawn is holding the baby, and so she's just trying to say anything to calm him down. And so she's just basically like, I didn't know he worked up there, you know, I didn't know he worked up there at all. I went up there, and, you know, he was yelling at me, telling me to wear my mask or whatever. And once she mentions that Diamond was yelling at her, then Derek just loses it. He's like, what? He yelled at you? He was yelling at you? He goes storming through the house. Now, I'm like, what's he gonna do? I'm thinking he about to go storm through the house, you know, grab something and go head out to try to find Diamond or something. But he actually ends up going. He calls the dollar store, and he's like, I need to put in a complaint. My wife got yelled at by one of your people. And Keyshawn is just standing there, and she's just looking distraught because obviously she's just saying whatever so that she don't get hands put on her by Derek. But at the same time, you know, she don't want to cause Diamond to lose his job and stuff. So she's just standing there like distraught. And I felt bad for her because I get it. I mean, she had to say whatever she needed to say in order to not get hands put on her. And you know what I'm saying? So I get it, you know. I get it, but I do hate that Diamond gets caught in the crossfire. You know what I mean? So anyway, she's, Derek's on the phone. He's like, what did he say to you? What did he say to you? And she's like, oh, he was just yelling at me, telling me not to, to take my mask off. And so Derek is on the phone and he's like, oh, so he's gotten multiple complaints. Well, you need to fire him. You need to fire him before somebody fires him from life. And I was like, child, this is a lot. So after Derek basically gets off the phone getting Diamond fired or whatever, Keyshawn is just like trying to calm him down. And she does bring up the thing that Diamond said that he called him. She's like, yeah, Diamond, he was just yelling, and he even said that you called him a blank, and when she says it, Derek doesn't say, no, I didn't say that or nothing. He just looks at her. And I'm like, girl, there go your answer right there. He said that. And so he just kind of looks at her. And then after a few seconds, he's just like, I mean, they'll say anything. You know me, Keyshawn. You know me. And I couldn't tell if Keyshawn was like seeing through the bullshit or not. But I hope she was, because at the end of the day, if you accuse somebody of saying something like that and they're not like, no, I didn't say that. What are you talking about? Like, he literally just stared her dead in her face like, okay, like it wasn't a big deal or something. So I couldn't tell fully if Keyshawn was just really seeing through the bullshit but just not saying anything, or if she just really believed that he didn't say it. But who knows. But either way, she brings up the tour again. She's like, eventually things are gonna be back to normal. I can dance again. And Derek's like, no, everything is fine the way it is. Everything is better right now. You don't have to leave the house. You don't have to go out. And Keyshawn is just like, yeah, but we're trying to achieve our dreams. We're trying to get this house, backyard for the kids, all this good stuff. And she's like, how are we gonna get that if we can't, me doing all this, me making more money is gonna allow us to do that. And so, she's trying to convince him again to let her go on the tour with Lil Murda. And he's basically just like, look, tell the manager, Rome, to come and have a sit down with me and, and talk to me about it, and we'll see. So Lil Murda and his friend that works at the funeral home are in a decked out hearse. And apparently this is about to be the tour bus. So they can't afford a tour bus. So they rolling in the hearse to do their little Dirty Dozens tour where they're going to go to 12 different cities. And so while they're in the hearse, they're just kind of talking or whatever. Lil Murda end up calling DJ Never Scared because he's trying to see if he wants to come on the tour and be the DJ on the tour. But DJ Never Scared, he done glowed up a little bit. He's in Atlanta. He's working with an artist on some beats and stuff. He's sitting in the studio. He's like, nah, I can't come because I'm working with an artist, and the artist is a woman. She kind of comes out and she says something to him, and she puts her arm on his shoulder, and you can kind of see her fingernails, and it kind of felt like they were kind of making it seem like it was Meg Thee Stallion. But either way, DJ Never Scared, he's doing his producer thing in Atlanta, so he's not gonna be coming on the tour. And so they're in the tour bus or whatever. They end up stopping by the prison. Basically, one of their old childhood friends is getting out of prison, and he's gonna come on the tour with them and be security. So they have this cute little reunion moment. Apparently, Lil Murda was in there too. They were in there for a period of time together, and the friend has just been in there, was just in there for much longer. And so he's so happy to finally be out, and he's gonna be going on tour with them to be Lil Murda's bodyguard. So Rome comes to meet with Keyshawn and Derek so that he could talk to Derek in person about, the tour and everything. Last episode, I wasn't sure if Rome was the guy from season 1 who had initially been trying to represent Lil Murda, but it is him. So he's, just having a conversation with Derek, trying to convince him to let Keyshawn go on the tour. He's like, everything's going to be on the up and up. She's going to have her own hotel room. She's going to have her own transportation. Everything's going to be wiped down and cleaned, before she even gets there because of COVID and stuff. And he's just like telling them about all the brands that have signed on. And so he basically, Keyshawn asked him to come to convince Derek, but Keyshawn ends up flipping the whole thing on him, and she's like, well, actually, how much is my cut, and how much am I going to get for this, and how much am I going to get for that, and I don't even know if this is worth it anymore. And so she's just kind of like, you know, she really flips the whole thing on him. And so after the meeting, he's like confused as hell. So he goes back to the Hirsch, you know, / tour bus. And he's telling them, he's like, I don't understand what happened. She told me to come and help convince him to let her go. And, you know, he's stressing about it because he's like, all these brands that I've got, you know, to endorse the tour, they're basically paying for the whole tour, but they're doing it because of Keyshawn. He's like, so if she don't come, none of it works, you know. And so he's stressing about it whole time. This is part of Keyshawn's master plan. She ends up texting him and she's like, thanks, you know, I'll take care of the rest. So basically having him come and then her just kind of like flipping everything on him is a part of her whole master plan to finally be able to get Derek to let her go on the tour. So we're at the grand reopening of the Pynk. It's a vibe. Everybody has come out to party and have a good time. Child, ain't no mask in sight, so you know Rona is in there partying too. But either way, you know, everybody's having a good time. But unfortunately, you know, it's not the smoothest of smooth sailing because Uncle Clifford is not there. Diamond is not there working the door anymore, and Haley is just brand new to this, so she's trying to manage everything on her own, and stuff is just not going according to plan. They got Big L is the DJ, but he's also trying to be in the kitchen cooking the wings that they be making, and he done almost burnt the whole place down in the kitchen trying to make wings. And then we have a situation where one of the dancers is upset because Big Bone, who, you know, was not hired as a dancer, she was hired as a bartender, but she up on the bar, twerking on the bar, and dudes throwing money on her on the bar. And so one of the dancers is like, that's not cool. The bartenders need to be serving drinks, not dancing and twerking. Dancing and twerking is for the dancers. You know, you got men up there throwing her money. They supposed to be throwing money to the dancers, and she's mad about that. And so then at the same time, one of the other dancers is having a whole little back and forth, you know, domestic dispute with her baby daddy in the middle of the dance floor. And Haley goes over there and she's like, you know, you're gonna have to leave. And he's like, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, he just starts going off because it's no, Diamond's not doing security at the door no more. So it's like they're not, who's gonna throw him out? And so it's a mess. Haley is running around in her little blazer, child, trying to figure everything out without Uncle Clifford, and it's just not going well for her. But it's also her first night, so low-key we could have kind of like, you know, we could have kind of... While all this is going on, Uncle Clifford is at home. He is having a sad birthday. He's just in bed, laying around, looking sad. You know, his friends and stuff are texting him happy birthday, and he's just, you know, laying there looking sad, not doing nothing. And Grandma Ernestine ends up calling him and telling him he needs to go take out the trash. He go to take out the trash. Some folks in scream masks and snatched him up, girl, and threw him in the trunk. He's screaming. He don't know what's going on. Back at the Pynk, everything is just still in shambles, and child, Haley is just doing her best. So Mercedes is in the Paradise Room. She's basically showing the two new girls, Roulette and Whisper, you know, around the Paradise Room. They're working on a little routine or whatever for them to do when they're in there. And, you know, they had installed the new poles in the Paradise Room, and one of them is, it's kind of like hangs from the ceiling, but it's not like attached to the ground. So it has started just like swaying by itself. And I had mentioned earlier that the new girl Whisper is like spiritual, you know, she was in the locker room with a crystal, like trying to like tell somebody's future or some shit earlier in the show. But she sees the pole just like sway by itself, and she's like, it's trying to tell us something, ask it a question. And she's just kind of looking at it, and you know, she's on her heavy spirituality shit. She's like, it's you know, she's like, ask it a question. And the girl Roulette is like, you know, are we gonna make a lot of money tonight or something like that? And the pole like moves, starts swaying by itself, and Whisper's like, it's saying yes. And she just kind of looks at it weird, and then she kind of looks at Mercedes weird, and it's like, girl, do you know are you feeling some energy or something? Because, I mean, we know everything that went down in the Paradise Room, and Mercedes is like hella uncomfortable being in there anyway. And so like the way that girl Whisper just kind of looked at her, I was like, let me find out Whisper really can read energies and like can read the energy of everything that happened in this room. I wouldn't be surprised. Based on the direction that this episode ends up going later, it was giving heavy science fiction vibes. So I would not be surprised if Whisper was not like literally able to read the energy in this room. But we're going to talk about that in a second. So we back over to Uncle Clifford. He getting yanked out the trunk by the people that kidnapped him. Turns out it's all his friends. They have thrown a huge birthday party for him. There's so many people there. Folks is roller skating and vibing and having a good time. One of the friends of his, I think it's the Where the Money Reside dude, but I can't tell if that's him or if that's just somebody that looks a lot like him, but y'all let me know. But I really loved this scene because in episode 1, we only saw Uncle Clifford in the context of the pink. We saw him interacting with the dancers. We saw him interacting with his grandmother. We saw him interacting with the Kyle brothers and their whole situation, but we didn't see anything about his personal like life, or like we didn't really get any information about like, you know, what his life is like or what his circle is like outside of the dancers that he worked with at the pink. So I was like, okay, so like Uncle Clifford got like a whole community around him. So that made me feel good. I really liked that. So he ends up going to this party. It's like everybody's celebrating him. Apparently Grandma Ernestine was in on it. That's why she sent him out to take the trash, because she was just, you know, so that the friends could, you know, fake kidnap him or whatever. By the way, let me tell you something. If any of my friends ever felt like it was a good idea to fake kidnap me, put me in the trunk, and drive me somewhere on some surprise party bullshit, just know that by the time you open that trunk, I'm gonna be done had a whole ass heart attack and it's gonna be lights out. Don't surprise me that way, okay? Because I'm gonna have 3.5 panic attacks and cardiac arrest while I'm in that trunk, okay? And by the time we get to the party, you're gonna be calling 911. So I'm just like, don't ever surprise me in no traumatic ass way like that. Like, if you gotta traumatize me in order to surprise me, don't surprise me. But anyway, Uncle Clifford is there with his friends. The party is just spectacular. Everybody's having a good time. And while he's there, you can just kind of tell that he's just like, you know, he's happy to be, you know, enjoying this time with his friends and stuff, but also he's clearly missing Lil Murda. At one point, he has like this little hallucination and thinks he sees him in the crowd, but, you know, it's just a hallucination or whatever. And then eventually he ends up, because it's like a skate party, they're like, well, you know, go get you some skates or whatever. So he goes to the back of the skate party to get him some skates. And it's a little dude back there who low-key, I mean, he don't really look like Lil Murda, but he has the same kind of like vibe as Lil Murda as far as like low haircut, a little bit of same skin tone, same height, you know, same kind of vibe or same kind of swag or whatever. So you could tell immediately when you seen him that, you know, Uncle Clifford, he misses Lil Murda, you know, this'll do. It was that kind of situation. Like, okay, you know, it's like the great value Lil Murda. This'll do. And so he ends up hooking up with the dude back there. But let me tell y'all something. I wasn't ready for this scene. And I'm gonna tell y'all why. I know stars be with the nudity. Stars, you know, you watch Power, you watch P-Valley, they don't skimp on the nudity, right? You know, but I wasn't expecting to see Uncle Clifford's mini Clifford, which actually end up being a grande Clifford, okay? Let's be real. I wasn't expecting to see that. And the crazy thing is, I didn't see it the first go around. So I watched the episode twice. I watched it the first time just to watch it and enjoy it. And then I went in and watched it again so I could take notes for this video and get screenshots and whatever. And so the first go around of me watching it, I didn't even realize that we seen Clifford's eggplant. And then I'm watching the second time, I'm taking notes and stuff, and I'm like, wait, what is that? I was like, so y'all just Uncle Clifford, you know, very tall, said he wear a size 13 in shoes. Lil Murda doing pop-ups at his grandmother's house. The math is mathing. It's mathing. But I wasn't prepared. I was not ready. So Mercedes, Roulette, and Whisper are taking the stage as the newest trio. They're calling themselves Earth, Wind, and Fire, and they're all sharing the stage performing. Of course, Mercedes is used to being the HBIC honey. She is used to being the Beyonce of the group. So she's up there center stage doing her thing, but she starts to realize that the other two girls are getting more attention than her. She starts to notice people in the crowd are really paying more attention to Whisper and Roulette, and she starts to feel a way about it. So she starts doing extra stuff, and as she starts doing the most, her shoulder starts to hurt. So she's climbing up the pole through the pain because she just cannot handle the fact that somebody else is getting more attention than her, which, let me just say this, you know, don't ever be like this. Don't ever be like Mercedes. Like, don't ever be the type of woman that it tears you apart that another woman is getting some attention that you're not. Listen, it's enough attention out here for all of us, ladies. The fact that she was willing to literally risk her life, okay? Her health, her shoulder, everything, because these girls were getting a little bit more attention than her is just wild. But there are really people out there like that. It's okay to let another woman get a little bit of attention, okay? But Mercedes, she ain't having it, so she starts trying to do extra. Her arm is clearly hurting her. She can tell that it's like about to give out, but she's just climbing through the pain anyway, gets to the top of the pole, and falls off. So she's falling in slow motion. Everybody in the audience is looking like, oh shit, she's falling. And she's falling in slow motion, and they don't show the actual impact. They just show her opening her eyes, and she sees Uncle Clifford and Haley and Diamond. And so basically Uncle Clifford has taken her to Diamond's house because it's still COVID. So he's like, all the hospitals are full, so we couldn't take you to the hospital. So he was like, I knew where to bring you. I knew to bring you here. And so at first I'm thinking, okay, Diamond used to be in the military, so maybe they brought her there because he knows how to do some military relocating people's shoulders back into place type of vibes. But turns out Diamond is a whole spiritual healer, warlock type of vibes. And I'm like, when did this happen? This came so far out of left field. There was no, unless I missed it, let me know. Unless I missed it, there was no indication in season 1 that Diamond was like a spiritual healer type of person. I don't remember there being any indication of that in season 1. So this came so far out of left field to me. And they have this whole scene where Mercedes is like laying on the table, and Diamond is like, you know, doing all this like, you know, mystical, spiritual stuff. And, you know, apparently her shoulder has been aching, but it's not out of socket and it's not broken. It just feels heavy. And it's basically the weight of all the pressure from everything that happened on murder night just weighing on her shoulder, because remember, she's the one that shot the guy. So it's basically all that like negative, like evil energy weighing on her this whole time. And so whatever Diamond is doing with his hands and and he's, you know, he's able to get all of that energy to leave her body. And when it does, it's like on some exorcism, like she starts like gyrating it. I was like, y'all went far left with this. Like, now listen, I don't mind it. I liked it. I'm fine with that being an element of the show. Like, I'm 100% fine with that being an element of the show. But it just came so far out of left field because at no point in season 1 did we get any of this. So I'm just like, this is just a whole other element. And look, like I said, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with this being like this spirituality thing, Diamond being a whole healer or whatever. I'm cool with that. But I'm just like, I didn't expect it. Like, y'all didn't give us no indication that we was going here. Like, we literally went from just like a stripper show to a sci-fi show. Like, I mean, okay, like, I'm rolling with it, but it was out of nowhere. So the whole scene, I'm just like laughing because I'm like, what is this? Like, what's this? It was just so different. And so anyway, he ends up getting the negative energy to leave her body. She's like convulsing and stuff on the table, and he ends up going and getting like a crystal or something so that all the negative energy can leave her body and go into the crystal. And then he puts the crystal on a scale and it shows that it weighs 7 pounds, and he's like, yeah, that's 7 pounds of pressure and weight that just left your body. And he's like, if this has been happening ever since what happened on murder night, he was like, I know from being in the military that it takes 7 pounds of pressure to pull a trigger on a gun. And like I said, she was the one that shot that dude. So basically it's like all of the negative energy from her pulling the trigger and shooting dude, that's what's been just like living in her body ever since that night. And so basically Diamond, he ends up opening the window, and then like the little the crystal that he like absorbed all the energy into, he opens a window, and then you just see the scale like going from 7 pounds to 0 pounds because all the energy from the crystal is like going out the window. Girl, it got sci-fi, okay? It turned into a science fiction show. And like I said, I'm not mad. I'm into it. How do we get here? There's no lead up, And I guess maybe the girl Whisper being like spiritual, and she had a crystal where she was like, reading somebody's future or something like that. Maybe that was their lead up, but that wasn't a very substantial lead up. It's just they haven't given us they have not given us any indication that there was some spiritual stuff going on, and they just threw it at us, like not even like in a subtle way. They just was like, boom, Diamond's a healer. He's going to extract evil energy from her body, put it in a crystal, and then let it fly out the window. I'm actually intrigued to see how this Diamond is a spiritual healer continues throughout the show, because listen, let me tell you. Uncle Clifford, when Diamond was doing all this stuff with his hands, was like, if he can do all that. He was saying to Haley, because Haley was like, what the hell is happening? And Uncle Clifford was like, hey, girl, if he can do all that with his hands, imagine what he could do with his. And I was like, you right. Anyway, once all this goes down, Mercedes is upset, and she's like, this is your fault. This is because of you. She's talking to Haley. She's like, if all this stuff that happened in the Paradise Room, like all this is, you brought all this to us, like, and she's just going off and she's mad, and she's like, I'm gonna get caught for this. I'm gonna get caught because in the first episode, and even in this episode, they're talking about how like Diamond and Big L were the ones who basically got rid of dude's body after they killed him in the Paradise Room. So she's like, I'm gonna get caught for this, because she was the one that pulled the trigger. And so she's just going off. She's really upset. Uncle Clifford is trying to like calm her down. While Uncle Clifford is trying to calm down Mercedes, Haley goes over, and she goes over to the corner where Diamond has all his crystals and stuff, and she notices that the guy, her ex that they killed, his ring is sitting there. And she's like, why do you still have this? We can't have no evidence of this, and Diamond is basically like, listen, that is my protection to make sure that his like spirit and evil energy, whatever, don't come and try to do nothing to me or harm me or whatever. He was like, I'm not getting rid of that. Like he was like, me and Big L were the last ones to like put hands on him and stuff. And he was like, I don't need that negative energy coming back and harming me. So that ring is going to stay right there because the energy is apparently in that ring. And so I feel like that's going to come up again probably. I feel like maybe this whole case of this dude, you know, being missing or whatever is going to end up coming back to them somehow. And because that ring is still around, I feel like it's going to end up being a problem. The fact that that ring is still there, I feel like it's going to end up being a problem, but we'll see how they work that in. But either way, they end up, you know, as they're leaving, Mercedes is just really upset still. And, you know, she just really feels like all this negativity and stuff is coming from Haley's direction. And she's like, you know, she basically lets her know, like, you got to get the stepping, girl, because Haley has been living with her throughout this time. And, you know, Haley's like, you know, I just haven't found a place that I really love or whatever. And she's like, girl, I don't care. You got to get out tonight. You got to go. And so also they try to kind of ask if Diamond wants to come back to the Pink to do security, and they're like, you know, we could really use you there. Haley is like, you know, we could really use you. And he's like, you know, man, you know, I did get fired, you know, just get fired from my, you know, my job that I had. So, you know, essentially Derek calling and getting him fired worked, and he did actually get fired. But he's just like, you know, I don't know, because, you know, it's just a lot of negativity and stuff. And so low-key, I feel like Diamond probably will end up coming back to the Pink, but we'll see how that goes. But either way, they leave, and basically, you know, Haley is gonna have to find her somewhere to live. So Keyshawn and Derek are getting ready for bed, and we know that at the very beginning of this episode, Keyshawn saw the text message come through that said that Derek did not get the management position. And we also know that, you know, she had Rome come over and really try to convince Derek to let her go on tour, but then she flipped it on him and was like, well, you know, I don't really know if it's worth it. You know, during that conversation, she had brought up how, you know, she's like, you know, Derek is, he's about to get this management position anyway, so we might just be good on money. It might not be worth it to leave my babies, you know, for, you know, this amount of time, whatever. And so whole time she knows that Derek didn't get the job. So she again, this is all big part of her whole little master plan. So they're getting ready for bed, and she starts bringing up stuff that they need. She's like, oh yeah, I was thinking, you know, so you're about to get that management position. We could go ahead and get this, you know, we could go ahead and get this twin bed for our son. We can go ahead and get a new air conditioner since we're all at home. We're using the air all the time. And, you know, she's bringing up all these things that they need that cost money. And then finally, Derek breaks down and he's like, listen, you know, Keyshawn, we can't because I didn't get that management job. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Give this girl an Oscar because you knew, but this is all part of her plan. And so she basically goes over to Derek and she's like, listen, you know, if I go on this tour, we can get the money we need. You know, we haven't fought in a long time. I just need you to trust me. She puts that thing on him and she's like, can I go to tour? And he says yes, because I mean, men are easily manipulated when vagina is involved. So Haley is homeless as fuck once again. She's living in the Pink, child. I'm like, now girl, she living in the Pink, which I mean, she owns it, so you know, she can live there if she wants, I guess. But she's living in the Pink, you know, everybody's gone home for the night. She's just walking around in her little house coat or whatever. And she's, you know, she's drinking, she's a little tipsy, and she ends up getting on the stage, dancing around a little bit. And while she's up there dancing around, Andre walks in. Now, why, Andre? Are you just roaming around into the Pink at 4 or 5 in the morning? Like, what? Why are you not at home, sleep, talking to your wife, being a faithful husband? You out at 4 or 5 in the morning, roaming the streets and walking into the Pink. Like, sir, the way that this show just completely and utterly disregards the fact that this man is married is just wild to me. Like, you just out here doing whatever. But anyway, for whatever reason, Andre just waltzes into the Pink at, 5 a.m. when nobody else is in there but Haley, who lives there now. And they end up having a conversation, and, Andre is just really, they kind of have like a little back and forth about selling the Pink or whatever. But Andre ends up thanking her for, basically talking him into going to the funeral. He's really glad that he got to pay his respects and say goodbye to his uncle. He ends up breaking down a little bit and getting a little choked up. And, they end up, Haley comforts him. She gives him a hug, and they just hug for an uncomfortably inappropriate amount of time for a married man. Because let me find out that my husband is in Chucalissa, Mississippi, standing in the middle of a strip club at 5 a.m. with a half-naked woman that he was trying to cheat on me with last season, embracing her for several uncomfortable minutes. Like, Andre just don't care about his marriage. It's just very clear. So finally, we get to the very last scene. We see Keyshawn waking up. Honey, she done put Derek to bed, literally and figuratively. And, she wakes up that morning. She's kissing her babies goodbye. And then she goes out. She gets in the hearse/tour bus, and she's about to go on tour. And, she gets in, and the final scene is a shot of her just kind of like looking menacingly into the camera. Like, yes, like, we love a manipulative queen. Like, she really finessed that whole situation and got exactly what she wanted. Now, I'm happy that she finessed this situation in order for her to be able to go on tour. And so now we get to see the Dirty Dozen tour with Lil Murda and Keyshawn. And so we gonna see how this all turns out. And that's the end of the episode. They did do in the preview for the next episode, it's looking like it's getting crazy on tour. It looks like the dude from episode 1 who was like driving past Lil Murda's house and was in the back seat looking hella sketch. It looks like that dude is gonna be beefing with their friend who just got out of jail. Kind of looked like that was happening. It did look like there was a little bit of a standoff between the Kyle brother, that's the interim mayor, and Pastor Patrice Woodbine. So listen, part of my other like little, what if scenario that I gave in the last episode was, what if Patrice Woodbine runs against him as mayor? So I don't know. It was kind of giving that in the preview. Let me know what y'all think about that. I mean, low key, it could be a mayoral race where it's the Kyle brother versus Andre versus Patrice Woodbine. It could be like those three could be the candidates. So I don't know. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. It was kind of giving that when I was watching the preview. And then also it looks like at the Pink, maybe Mercedes is not dancing no more, because we seen Haley and Uncle Clifford basically talking about basically making the two new girls, Roulette and Whisper, be like the main attractions or whatever. So I don't know if they're just gonna try to like push Mercedes, to the back burner so that they can be like the headliners, or if Mercedes is like not wanting to come back after she fell off the pole. I don't know, but we'll see how that all goes. But I'm excited to see what happens next. I really am interested in seeing this whole like spirituality, Diamond is a spiritual healer situation going further, because it was out of left field, but I liked it. So I hope they continue with that and we see that unfolding some more throughout this season. But yeah, episode 2 was good. We found out that Diamond is a spiritual healer. We saw Uncle Clifford's eggplant. Like, it was a good time. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. I can't wait for the next episode. And when it airs, I will be right back here doing another review. Thank y'all so much. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.